Greetings all, Ferrariman601 here. VRC have released version 0.3 beta of their already highly acclaimed McLaren MP4 22. This is, I am led to believe, the final beta version before the 1.0 release, so we are definitely approaching a very high state of polish in this MP4 22, which already in 0.1 beta was immaculate. So let's take this car for a little bit of a shakedown and see what has changed. First off, let's have a look at the setup screen and just see what's going on. We are already well acquainted with this car, so really there shouldn't be any surprises here. I'm just led to believe that this is an incremental update, so we're not really expecting any major changes here in terms of the nuts and bolts underneath the skin, but everything should be just a little bit more refined. And as we can see here through the setup screens, everything is definitely holding true to that assumption. One thing that has changed, and this is definitely very welcome, watch the front wing here. As we make those downforce adjustments, you can see that the pitch of the wing visually changes. This is a big deal because it's one of those things that really does distinguish a quality mod from, well, not necessarily a cheap mod, but definitely this is a little detail that a lot of modding teams are starting to include now, and VRC definitely are including that here on the MP4 22. The same is true for the rear wings, a little bit harder to see from this angle, but definitely watch the rear wing here, and you can see the pitch of the main plane does change depending on what you do with the downforce, so that's really, really nice. Alignment, camber and tow, dampers and drivetrain, everything is status quo there. Generic, the rev limiter, the brake bias, brake power, and power steering. Suspension settings, your dampers and travel ranges there. And visual mods. The Viking horns there on the sides of the airbox. This we first saw on the McLaren MP4 20 in 2005, and that did continue here through 2006 and into 2007 here on the 422, but you can choose whether or not you want to have them on the car. The front wing as well, this bridge wing that McLaren debuted in Spain in 2007, you can run it in its launch spec, so Australia, Bahrain, Malaysia, those races, and then of course if you want the European spec, there you go, the bridge wing on or off. And here the nose cone type, you can have this, the launch spec nose cone, or you can put a somewhat narrower and lower nose cone on the car. The only problem is right there where the number should be. You can see the textures are kind of messed up on the second trim of the nose cone. That's something that'll be fixed for 1.0, but the shape of everything, very, very nice indeed. I'm going to run the car with the fins as well as the bridge wing. Setup, everything looks pretty normal. We're going to put the default setup back onto this car, and we're just going to take it for a shakedown run and see what's going on here on this newly updated MP4 22. The pit limiter lights flashing away there where the shift lights normally would be, that is all status quo. Nothing new there. View from the cockpit looks unchanged. The mirrors are still where they should be, and they offer a pretty good view to the rear. Aside from that, steering wheel modeling, cockpit modeling, definitely some things have been cleaned up here in the cockpit. Maybe we'll have a look at that as we're out on track, but you can see there just on the right-hand side of the bulkhead, you can see the extinguisher switch, and then probably a switch for either the heated visor or maybe some ancillary engine settings there, those knobs on the lower right. However, pedals in the lower left as always, and we've got our lap time ticking away there. Let's see how this latest version of the 422 shakes out. Just confirm some TC settings there. The dashboard does look a little bit sharper. I think they have cleaned that up a little bit. It was fine to begin with, but just incremental improvements. Gearbox behavior seems unchanged. The tires also look a bit more spiffy. See that white stripe down that second from the inside groove in there. That was to denote the softer compound back in 2007. Controlled tires in that year, of course, as we still have. Force feedback feels unchanged as far as I can tell. All in all, it seems like the cockpit textures are somewhat higher resolution. I can see weave in the carbon there. Once we're lit from behind once again, we should be as we come up the hill, you can see a higher res carbon weave there on the top of the monocoque. Really nice. Steering weight is good. Force feedback feels good. Let's give it some revs. Very nice. This is default setup, of course. Straight line speed, 312, 313, 314, just touching that there. Being conservative here. Not quite sure where the car is going to be on the default setup, but so far feels positive. Traction control kicks in nicely. We're running 5 out of 6 steps. Come up to the rev limiter, you don't get the vehicle status indicator come up, so the rev limiter is not too high, that's good. I'm detecting a different sound on the limiter though. Let's rev it to redline and listen to that. Definitely hear some crackling now on the limiter. That's pretty authentic, I would say. A little bit of rear locking there coming into Variante Alta. Brake bias is 55% to the front on default. Let's move that a little bit more frontward. Nice. Very, very nice. Not going to be setting any lap records here today. 22.535 being conservative here on default. 34 liters of fuel still on board. Bit of understeer on initial turn in. Running the medium compound. Very, very nice. I'm liking the reflections across the top of the monocoque, just peering over the nose here, as you do in these Formula One cars, and I like the reflections in the cockpit surround as well. The mirror reflections are very crisp. They're located nicely within the surface of the mirrors themselves. Looks good. Definitely the default driving position doesn't need any adjustment as far as I'm concerned. And the lap times are starting to come down. Very nice as we go over the curb so you can hear the car bottoming. Very nice touch. Traction control assist is quite nice. It does not really feel intrusive. It just gives you the sort of assistance that you're looking for. Still a little bit of rear locking there, even after having ratcheted the brake bias forward a bit. Take our hot lap line, 120.981, not bad, not bad at all. Fuel economy seems to be expected here. Burning about 5.5 liters per lap, there or thereabout. Really nice, I'm liking this so far. I mean, it's VRC, I shouldn't be surprised. Definitely a very, very cool car. It always has been, and this update, as far as I can tell from the cockpit, definitely seems warranted, and so far, having trouble poking any holes in it. Rear locking again. I might have to adjust the brake bias a little bit more forward, just for Variante. That seems to be the only place that I'm getting rear locking. It's also one of the points on the circuit where you're braking the hardest. It's the shortest braking distance on the whole circuit, by the way. Brake at 50 meters there on a really fast lap. What are we getting? 120.476. Another half a second down on that lap. I think this is status quo for the fuel load burning down. 24 liters left. Very cool. Definitely liking the sounds here. I'm not sure how well you can hear them. There'll be an onboard portion after this run without commentary, so you'll be able to assess those sounds a bit better for yourself. But into my headset here, definitely sounding quite nice. Default gearing seems quite good. Car's not really bogging down. Gaps between the gears feel right. Shift times are real fast. And 120.096. Almost 4/10 improved yet again. It's a consistency generator, I'll tell you that much. I feel like the tires have lost a little bit of their magic. These aren't the fastest tires to begin with. It's very nice, very compliant over the curbing. And those ripples that you get going up the hill out of Acqua Minerale, very, very nicely contained by the chassis here. It's not too jarring, nothing's very abrupt as you go over the bumps, and even the curbing, when you really pound the curbing hard, like here through the Rivazza corners, the car just reacts quite nicely, very linear, no nasty surprises here. Traction control working overtime there through the Tamburello chicane. Weight transfer there, just snatch the left front. And again, we're getting the reverb between the wall and the trees there, up toward the top of the hill. Very nice sounds. Again, the sounds have not really been changed very much. They were very good to start with, going back to 0.1 beta. Everything just feels more polished now. Dive into the pits. See the limiter lights come back on as we enter the pit lane. Very nice indeed. There is a lockout on neutral when you're moving, so you can't accidentally throw it into neutral if you get a little bit carried away with your downshifts. And then sitting here stalled out in reverse. Very nice. Let's have a look through some of the onboard cameras here. This is the first F6 camera. So we've got our T-bar camera there, and then on the left side of the cockpit, front wing, looking rearward toward the driver. Another sort of wing camera here on the side pod, rear view, and then back to the first camera, then the T-bar. Cockpit view, of course. F1 second camera, here's our first chase cam, second chase cam, rain light looks good. And then another T-bar camera, this one slightly centered. Here's the F1 camera, here's the F6 camera, so you can see the difference there. The car looks really good, I have to say. From this shot, this looks really, really good. Just putting that out there. Back to the F1 cameras, this is right over the top of the nose. You can just see the bottom of the bridge wing. Cockpit view without the steering wheel. And then cockpit view from the driver's perspective once again. Really nice. This is the F7 free cam here, and then the F5 camera here, the orbit cam. Nice. Really, really nice. Getting in close here to look at the skin detail and all of the geometries here. It looks really good. It really does look really good. Look at that rain light texture. You can see now the screw heads holding the lensing in place, and you can see a reflection of the pit buildings there in the rain light. That's so cool. That's really, really cool. VRC, you continue to deliver miracles. And once again, this is a miracle. We're going to have a lot of fun with this thing. Expect to see this one in a hot lap competition, not in January, but maybe in February? Yeah. This is going to be good. This is going to be really good. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that little first look. Hot laps are to follow from external as well as onboard cameras. That F6 roll bar camera, yeah, that's going to be our onboard shot. I really am anxious to see what that looks like. However, thank you all very, very much for watching. Stay tuned for the hot laps. For Ironman 601 saying thanks, and we will see you soon.